to the players on the riff, both sides in full.
Thank you very much, Master One. So, get to see these lovely faces as we go into the champion select.
And here we are back into game pick and ban, starting to rally a band away straight away from SoftBank Hawks. None of that happening today. See what they respond with.
So we have seen a couple of teams in a couple of regions really like to ban the Aurelia. We haven't seen too much of it played. We saw a little bit. We did see it played by TSM last night, actually, and they played that very well in their win against Dignitas. On the other side, we see the ever-present Elise Bando.
Yeah, absolutely. Blank, great player. Definitely knows how to play Elise. He was on SKT, who definitely knew what they were doing with Elise. Everyone remembers that Season 3 insane mid-push with that. He knows what he's doing. He's come from a roster that knows what they're doing with that.
There is actually an SKT Elise skin.
There is. Yeah. For Bengi, though, I believe.
For Bengi, I believe. Yeah, because there was the Olaf and the Zach one year, and there was Elise another.
It was indeed. Yeah. On the other side, though, Set has been banned. No more of that champion. Syndra, the response. Again, we've talked quite a lot about how strong a pick she is right now.
Yeah, and what the best thing about this draft is that we won't see a first pick Set. It's been banned. I'm not sure I like people first picking that champion, even though we have seen when people pick the scaling champions into it, we see Set sometimes being able to really influence these mid-game team fights. I think Ray Farkey did really well on the side of Crest Gaming. On Burning Core.
There we go.
There we go. Oh, the other C blue logo team. But yeah, no, the Set has been present throughout the day, and we do see the Rumble and Dilution rounding out the bands.
And again, two of those other flexible picks that can be fitted into a lot of different roles. See what the first pick here is for Sengoku Gaming. I imagine it might be something like the Lucian or the Aphelios or the Akali that was left open.
Okay, so this has been pretty much permanently banned across the world by every team. It's a very dangerous assassin, very high numbers in both the mid lane and the top lane.
And that is quite a statement from SoftBank Hawks, who clearly feel that they either have an answer or don't feel threatened by Sengoku Gaming's Akali play. The response, though, is an Aphelios, who is absolutely tearing apart this region at the minute. Hasn't lost yet on this day of games.
Well, Aphelios is tearing across the world, really. Everyone kind of knows that Aphelios is this boogeyman that comes out in the bot lane. Really strong AD carry, up there with Misfortune and Senna as the high priority picks. Although Senna only seeing that first win earlier.
Yeah, and Tussle picks up the Lee Sin. He himself is a very good Lee Sin player, but Blank was notoriously good at that champion too. But he does respond with a Rek'Sai for himself.
Yeah, it's the even trade of the early game AD junglers in Rek'Sai and Elise, both very good at ganking each other. Although Rek'Sai sometimes has a preferable matchup into Lee Sin, being able to cancel the second part of that Q if they ever run across each other with the Unburrow.
Yep, and Misfortune is picked up on the side of Sengoku Gaming as well. We've already talked about how strong pick she is in the bot lane, paired up right. Bullet time is very strong. She has a lot of lane presence with her double up. Lots of power there in the AD position.
Yeah, and we've seen Misfortune be this AoE teamfight monster as well into the mid game. And the late game as well. Scales very well with the crit itemization. Lots of AD in there. We see Ramone picking up LeBlanc for his second game, though.
I am so excited.
One of his classic picks going way back into the past as well. This guy's always loved this champion. Back before the last rework, where she had that very strange sigil mechanism.
Indeed. Look, last game, Ramone was stuck on a scaling pick. He was stuck on the Corki. Not as much agency as he would have liked. Screw that. We've got Elise and LeBlanc. They're going to be running all over the place. And I'm really excited to see. I think if SoftBank Hawks want to pick up a game, sticking their all-star mid 2v2, or mid jungle 2v2 rather, onto some super power picks is an exceptional choice. But never mind that. Leona taken away by SoftBank Hawks in this second round of bans.
Yeah, and Braum being the other ban as well. So these melee supports coming through. Braum being very good against the Misfortune, being able to block out most of that bullet time. Which is, again, like we said, this fantastic team fighting tool does make Misfortune very strong.
Ornn banned away as well. That Premier, I was going to say top laner, but then I realized actually it's been played mid lane a little bit as well. LS claims that Ornn is a fantastic jungler, which I can kind of see the reasoning behind, even if I've not seen it all out in pro yet. So just taken off the ball.
Yeah, and actually, with Akali being a flex and Ornn being a flex, they could actually have kept those lanes in flux right up until that 20-second mark after all picks are locked in as well. Would have been quite interesting to see where they would have gone with that, but no matter, it has been banned alongside the Aatrox as well, another top lane ban.
Yeah, Aatrox is one of those semi-safe picks you can pick blind. And for Dasher, who had a game he'll want to look back on and improve on the last time around, maybe taking that away from him is possibly sensible, put him on something more risky. However, Nautilus picked up here for Pooh. A lot of engage there to join with the Aphelios. Tom Kench, though, looking like a potential response here. Keep that misfortune alive.
Yeah, I guess there is a lot of single target threat on the side of the Hawks. So yeah, I think the Tom Kench pretty good as long as with what as the last good melee support really left in that pool.
Indeed, we'll see what they want to round out their composition with. They've got a couple strong threats with the Misfortune and the Akali. A little bit of safety with the Tom Kench. Early game pressure with the Rek'Sai. Wonder what the last solo lane pick here will be. They're taking a long time on this. They're going to keep us all guessing
keeping the options open. Just not hovering anything so far, and they're going to lock in Cannon. Okay, so we assume this Cannon is going top lane, and what this means is that there is definite wombo on the side of Sengoku. You have Cannon in the top lane, the Slicing Maelstrom layered on top of that will be the bullet time from Misfortune. And if you get caught with the stun of the Slicing Maelstrom, you have to imagine you're taking all of the bullet times damage.
And Aphelios is going to have to be very careful because those are two quite wide area effect spells as well. He's going to struggle to stay out of their radius. But Vladimir is the response for Dasher in the top lane. Yeah, he's a mid laner. He knows what he's doing on that champion. And that is some area effect for some area effect. Hemoplague for Slicing Maelstrom. Yeah. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, and what we see now is AoE teamfight options from both teams. This is actually going to be really fun to watch. I think that the 1v1 between Cannon and Vladimir is always a tumultuous one. I think Vladimir eventually outscales the Cannon, but Cannon does have that more instant burst ability.
And let's be completely frank, we were hoping this would be our game of the week, and frankly, it's looking like it. We've got a great top lane matchup. We've got a volatile mid lane matchup with the jungle 2v2. We're looking at a bot lane that can blow each other up as well. This could be absolutely explosive.
Yeah, but Mao, my issue is what happens if Sengoku don't land the perfect Cannon ult? What happens if Cannon misses someone important? The Vladimir gets to retaliate because there is basically no other engage on the side of Sengoku. It's Kali not bringing any CC. Rek'Sai has the single target. So basically you're relying on Appaman to have just the godlike Slicing Maelstrom.
And he absolutely can do. That is something that Cannon is very, very good at doing. But not just that. Let's have a look over on the other side, because while Sengoku are a little shy on engage outside of a Rek'Sai or maybe an Akali just diving in and just throwing as much damage as she can if that counts as engage, Nautilus definitely brings engage. Aphelios with the Gravitum can definitely offer that. Lee Sin has the kick, can definitely do some stuff with that. And Vladimir can just pull in Proto Belt and get a fight started, even if it's not CC heavy.
Yeah, if you're not stood next to your Tom Kench, I think that the Hawks have a lot of ways to remove someone from the map, as we see the LJL 2020 intro.
And we look over here. This is some advertisement going on. Wow. Look at that. That's some glorious. That is the match of the day for these guys, too. They know.
Wait, is that vitamin D for match of the day?
It is. This is what it is. This is why we love Japanese advertising.
A summoner has disconnected.
A summoner has reconnected.
All right, we are finally into game now for Sengoku Gaming versus SoftBank Hawks Gaming. And let's have a look at where we're at. We're looking at Appaman, Blank, Piri, and Yutori Miyashi, and NTO for Sengoku Gaming versus Dasha, Tussle, Ramune, Honey and Pooh, glorious Winnie the Pooh references on SoftBank Hawks Gaming. And we just witnessed one of the greatest of Japanese adverts. I do like my Japanese ads. It's always a pleasure to see the weirdness that they entail.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said earlier on in the broadcast, I really am sad that I've never managed to witness or experience live Japanese advertising. It's always very fun. I've never lived out there myself. Maybe I'll have to go there at some point.
Yeah, and again, there's just so much to work with when it comes to Japan's weird sense of advertising. Everything just goes crazy. They start doing full romance dramas over the course of advertisements. It's just kind of impressive they put that much effort into into just storytelling and advert of all things. Normally with neon colors and explosions, it's pretty great.
And so just looking down the team composition, like we were saying,
Back on target.
I think that Sengoku really are relying on a really good Kennen ult. It's the only AoE CC they have on their team. They have a lot of damage, but not necessarily the best ways to set it up outside of that. One thing, though, what I find quite interesting is that this Akali has taken Spellbook. It's not Conqueror, it's not Electrocute. This is a Spellbook on the mid lane from Pyrion.
Interesting. I suppose Conqueror did take some nerfs, and the opportunity to pick up things like Ignite, Summoner is really strong potentially.
I actually feel Conqueror changes were pretty good for Akali because it means you stack it up really quickly. You do get a lot of stats, and Akali does like stats.
But never mind that, because that's a great hook there from Pooh. We were talking about how that bot lane needed to step after that the last game not going so well, but that one's great. And here comes Tussle, finds his way, and NT just about survives, but Misfortune on Yutomiyashi step forward and make Tussle take a bit of damage in return.
Oh man, Tussle only at level 2. If he'd had the E from Lee Sin, would have been able to finish off that kill there. NT having to take so much damage, recalling, but at least surviving.
Yeah, but that's every summoner burnt from Sengoku Gaming's bot lane. And Yutomiyashi forced away from the wave by Pooh's aggressive positioning as well. That is a nightmare start there for the Sengoku bot lane.
Yeah, absolutely. And this just really derails the lane dominance of a Misfortune lane. You have to imagine that, Misfortune's backed herself just to get a pair of brown bags to put her feet in.
That's literally it. That is a bad first back. Aphelios, Nautilus, exceptionally happy now for SoftBank Hawks. They're going to be doing a lot of work.
Yeah, and what this does mean, though, is that this top lane is being a little bit isolated. We see the Kennen getting the priority, the early shove, perhaps denying a few CS to this Vladimir early on into this game.
And that is Kennen's kind of joy, right? Vladimir takes a little bit of time before he has pressure in lane. Kennen, on the other hand, starts off pretty strong and is a bit of a bully early on. We've, of course, in years and metas past, seen AD itemization, but Tussle has found another early, and that's a great chain. Akali's in so much trouble. Pyrion flashing under tower. It's not going to be enough. First blood to Ramune on this, but here comes Blank. That's a great return kill. Gets one back at least.
Oh, actually fantastic. That Blank at least manages to clean up. Gives the assist to the Akali as well. Did manage to get a tick of damage in there as well. Burns the flash in that death, but at least Tussle loses his double buff. Refreshes Blank. It's an even trade all in all.
Yes, it is. And Akali comes back with a Vamp Scepter, something to keep her topped up and hopefully stop that happening. He's walking up to a Nautilus.
Just trying to stop
should be fine. He's got the Shuriken flip. And we're into a replay. Let's see how this went down.
Okay, so the big thing is that the chain lands. So the thing about chains now is that it reveals targets within the within the shroud. I think that Tussle had a really good play there, making sure the Warthog first get a little bit of extra damage down before activating that Q2. Takes just one too many turret shots, though. It means that Blank can clean up with the Halo Blades early damage from Rek'Sai.
Yeah, and that is Rek'Sai's joy. We did talk about how these were both very good early game junglers. Tit for tat there, but first blood for the LeBlanc is something I would definitely take over a dead mid laner and at least a return kill.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is kind of sad that the Akali didn't get the kill herself, but at least gets the assist gold, that extra 150 gold in pocket. We see now NC just doing a bit of a warding trip, getting 2 wards down on the bottom half of Tussle's jungle, maybe being able to track out that jungler a little bit more, as he has had a lot of impact in this early game. Immediately finding that pink ward, though.
Not going to take the pink ward, though. He's like, wait, what? Turns around, finds it.
I think he was just looking for the perpetrator there, maybe, trying to see if they hadn't quite managed to get out.
Yeah, that was some prescient warding there from the Hawks jungler. Discovers the pink ward within seconds of its placement.
Yeah, and we see these trades happening in the top lane. It's a 10 CS lead for Alpha Men right now, making sure to use that Kennen laning presence.
Yep, and of course, like we did speak about how Kennen, with that kind of, we'll call it off meta now, how to phrase this, earlier metas, previous metas, that's what we're looking. There we go, new began with pre somewhere on the previous metas, it was very much an AD top lane, that ability to run things. He's gone straight on level 6, goes straight, does a load of damage to Dasher, who's returned now with the Hemo Blade, but he's just gonna die.
Oh,
what?
Man.
Where did that come from? Man, the man in that definitely coming forward.
Absolutely. So the important thing which happens in here is that with the Doran's Blade start, Kennen starts with adaptive AD stacks. Stacks up his Conqueror that he's running and just throws down auto attack after auto attack after auto attack. With all those extra stats coming down, it means that Dasher dies before the heal comes in from the Hemo Plague. Fantastic limit testing, as we have been saying all day from the top laner of Sengoku.
And we talked about how Dasha had a little bit of an off first game. That's rough. Dying in lane in the 1v1 is going to suck.
It does kind of suck, but at least you know you're going to come into mid-game team fight still having a lot of power because you're a Vladimir. You haven't been denied out of too much CS and XP. Did manage to at least teleport back and get the wave. And as we see here, just clips Dasher with the edge of the slicing maelstrom, and auto attacks come down with the extra adaptive stats coming in. Really well played from
I
Atman.
have to assume he didn't have the sanguine pool, or he just pulls out of that, surely.
I think it must have been used in an earlier trade, and that's why Atman decided to go in. We didn't obviously see all the cooldowns used, but yeah, fantastically well played. And now we see a bit. One of the things which I love talking about when we talk about mid lane is where is the lane heading? And LeBlanc is one of these champions which loves to have the lane frozen just outside the tower, being able to jump forward with the distortion, land a chain, and then have your jungler back you up into these 2v2 mid lane kills.
Speaking of junglers backing each other up, we're looking at LeBlanc distorting forwards in the mid lane, but Blank hanging around, but not too much.
Yeah, the bodyguard.
The bodyguard, indeed.
He's used to playing the third summoner spell for Faker, you know. He's won a world championship or two with that.
It seems like a valid strategy when it comes to SK Telecom, or rather T1 now. It's got to get used to it. I'm so used to calling them that. I'm not even in their league and I get confused. But never mind that. What it does mean is that we'll have to see whether Pyrian can live up to such hallowed names as Faker. But apart from that, we're looking at pretty even CS across the board, aside from in top lane where this Kennen, with that additional solo kill, has got himself a 10 CS lead. It's a little bit of one for Blank in the jungle too.
Yeah, we see a couple of camp advantage towards Blank, although Tussle did have the early pressure into both mid and bot lane. Ramone managed to land the chain, get a decent trade there, but is traded back upon pretty quickly.
Yeah, good 5-point strike there from the Akali. Make sure that Pyrian doesn't get to throw these completely carte blanche, but that is a nice QW trade, and the Ignite has come out. Pyrian now in his shroud, but that is now down, and we're looking at Apperman going. This time, Dasher pulls, but he's forced away from the wave.
Yeah, and the Hemo Plague is used as well, which means that Dasher really can't stand up to this cannon again. Does make his dive ability a little bit higher as well, a little bit easier to dive that Vladimir right now.
But while that was going on, we saw Tussle and Pooh take the early Ocean Drake, but Apperman is now proxy farming between the towers. Dasher, this is miserable for this poor Vladimir.
Although, there's an ult coming out from Honey.
So close! Chakrams flying miles and miles. Take out Yutori Miyashi there. Definitely a better performance from this AD carry, but all the while, Blank has been taking down this Rift Herald, does claim it. It'll be an Ocean Drake for Rift Herald trade overall in the end.
Yeah, and I think that we see a lot of teams globally doing this decision-making process of, well, do we care about the first dragon? And if we can't get it, what else can we get? It's definitely just the opposite side of the map kind of mentality where you think, okay, we're not going to be winning on this bot side right now, so let's see what we can get around the top side. In this case, Sengoku secured the first Herald. We'll see if they manage to take this top lane turret. It looks like Blank's passing towards there to put down the Herald, perhaps.
But it might be a bit of a race because Honey and Pooh have really stepped up. And yeah, there's a CS lead for Alpaman in the top lane. But Honey has a big equal-ish CS lead in the bot lane on this Aphelios. It'll be a Rift Herald versus that push. Yeah, there's a couple plates gone down already in the bot lane, but I imagine the Rift Herald will definitely secure this turret. First blood for Sengoku Gaming.
And that's an extra 240 gold chunk going over to Appman. Probably up to the next step. 3 plates taken, so 360 gold, a kill's worth of gold into the pocket of the cannon, and already getting a kill himself. It's almost like he's 2 kills up over Dasher alongside that 20 CS lead.
Not quite that turret blood, first blood. Tussle is kind of around that top side as we see some more trades. It's a great chain. Another one lands, and Ramone is definitely coming out on top of these trades with Pyrian so far.
Yeah, and this is why, actually, when the initial Akali rework came out, LeBlanc was seen as a bit of the counter towards Akali, because Akali loves to be going up into these pseudo-melee trades, trying to do these hard trades, but LeBlanc is just really good at that with the electrocute into the early game as well.
Yes, certainly is. We'll see where it's going on. Blank has finally turned his way down to this bot side, has got the sweeper, turns away, though, not going to come in for the gank at the bot lane, and we're seeing anyway that Honey and Pooh are deciding now is the time for a back.
The Gunblade, not there. Yeah, the Bilgewater Cutlass popped by Pyrian there. Just trying to see if it could get a opportunistic Q into auto trade onto Ramone, perhaps.
Yep, didn't work out all that well in the end. And we're coming into, I want to say, a little bit of a bit of a lull in the game.
Oh,
But I hate to say that, because I've seen so many people go for solo kills. It feels like what should be a lull is actually just more chance to fight 1v1 or 2v2.
There's no help right now. The dragons are not spawned. Scuttle is spawning, I guess, but it's not something which people tend to really commit to. And this is basically just a extended laning phase, as we see. It's only 12 minutes into the game. We'll probably see a few more moves in preparation for this next dragon, because once you start getting up towards that second dragon, the rift forms, you make a couple of decisions about how you're going to compete for them in the future.
Indeed. But as we say that, a little bit more opportunistic trading. I suppose these are both assassins who win lane by throwing poke out to their opponents and seeing if they can bring people down to a kill threat area.
Absolutely, yeah.
But Tussle and Pooh teaming up and going for an invade on this red side. This is going to start to be something we see a little bit more of if Honey and Pooh continue their pressure on the bot side. It can be used for the invade, and Blank it's looking potentially to head over and trade up on Tussle's red side himself.
Yeah, there's going to be... Ooh, that's a big trade by Ramune there. Just trying to force Pyrion off of this CS from under tower. Looks like bot lane tower's just about to go down.
It looks like, and they're going to try and do it. The thing is, if they're stuck there, there's Gravitum available. There is an ult available for both bot laners here. They might look for an engage, but no, back away. Blank instead blast cones over to this top lane tower, maybe looking to force a trade straight away to keep the turret gold even. Yeah. And Tussle has flied across this wall and is now going to be on, or in vision rather, for Blank.
Yeah, and actually Tussle has fallen really far behind in this CS. I think that Tussle's first couple of minutes were really good on the Lee Sin, but as a consequence of that, Blank managed to walk into the topside jungle, take away Raptors, take away another couple of camps as well, and stay ahead, 30 jungle CS, which is about the same as about 8 camps or so, which is a meaningful 2-level lead in this jungle matchup.
Yeah, absolutely. And Tussle is 3 levels behind 4 levels behind this Ken and 3 levels behind this Akali. Definitely a bit of a squishy Lee Sin. It looks like he's going to go for a Black Cleaver first, if I'm right with that Ruby Crystal pickup. Yeah, hasn't even got to hope he ticks over to level 8 before this Dragon fight, or it's going to be a serious smite disadvantage.
Well, there are actually no camps for him to take. He might, it looks like he's just pinged out the Wolf camp and then Gromp. It looks like he's thinking about it. Ramune just, poking around, see if he can get anything on 20. The thick skin gives a lot of regen.
Has now picked up the Luden's Echo, but it's the double Gunblade pickup on the side of the solo lane. Sengoku.
Yeah, Gunblade is a really big item power spike for pretty much everyone that builds it. It just gives you extra ways to play the game because you have that extra sustain available to you. Ramune really just committing to a lot of these trades, although the poke isn't sticking particularly hard right now, doesn't have the AP to really threaten people with the full combos. What you're really looking to do is poke people down into later kill combos.
Yeah, definitely true. We're looking at a Dasher popping out of a bush, but Appleman trades back and says, yeah, I've got Gunblade, buddy. You sure you want to be doing this? Ramune and Tussle hanging around the Cloud Drake, which has now spawned, but Pyrion and Blank waiting in the wings, looking another one of these flash incoming from Dasher, causing so much damage. The Hemoplex down. Will this be a return kill onto Appleman? No. Flash burn for nothing does take out Appleman's health bar, though. See whether that counts something. We're looking at a little bit of an extended trade now in this mid lane. Cloud Drake becoming more and more of a contest.
Yeah, Dasher flashing in for that full combo in the top lane, as I'm going to stop again because there's just so much threat in this mid lane from both teams.
Like, it's hard to keep talking or start talking color points when Ramune is consistently looking for damage and chains. Going to be dangerous, but they feel like they've got enough to start up this Cloud Drake. We'll see whether Blank wants to contest. He's over by this blue buff. Nope, they're giving it up.
Yeah, it looks like they're just going to give up the dragon. It's only the second one. They say, we won't fight now. We'll try and fight later. Just get a couple more items. We don't have our Ken with the ultimate. Does have the TP, but doesn't have the impact without the slicing Maelstrom in a team fight.
Yeah, but Cannon all the while has managed to finally take down this top tier 1 and extends his CS lead. So yeah, Dasher managed to throw his health bar a little low, but it didn't matter in the end because he burnt Flash, Appleman didn't, and the tower goes down anyway.
Yeah, and what this does mean is that, again, Sengoku opting to do this side of the map trade, getting the second Herald this time as well. It's coming a little bit at the cost of the bot lane. Obviously, we saw that they lost their bot lane turret, and that was with all plating as well. The tower went down before the plating fell off, so a lot of gold going over to Honey and less gold onto Yutori Miyashi as well. On this priority pick...
He's got to be so careful. He does avoid the move with the flash, but it is flash burn, and the pressure on this mid lane turret continues. Don't think they'll be able to take the wave. Yutori Miyashi had worse as bullet time, but he managed to clear it out fairly swiftly.
Yeah, for sure. And at that point in time, NT wasn't stood alongside his AD carry, didn't quite manage to be there in time to save the flash. But, it's not a death. If that death had come through, probably would have been the mid lane tower as well. So it's still a good flash from Yutori Miyashi. Saves his life, definitely.
Yes. And what do you think? Bit off brand here. What do you think about the Bewitching Misfortune Prestige skin?
I don't play Misfortune myself. I like a couple of the Prestige skins. Obviously, Ari has one, so I have that one too. I'm a big fan of the Mafia Misfortune.
Yeah,
one.
that's
That's
cool.
really
The
classy,
Tommy
you know?
guns are. I agree.
I really appreciate the class of that skin. Same way I like Mafia Graves. And I really liked, as is customary to when we talk about Mafia Graves, the auto attack sound on the old Graves kit.
Indeed, I absolutely agree, and it's kind of the last holdover from that. But never mind that right now, because a Rift Herald has spawned, and that probably means more action. Looks like Apperman's going to get more gold, more pressure in this side lane, going to try and get this tower at the very least down to 10% low HP. Dasher steps forward with the Tides of Blood, manages to keep him away from the tower at least briefly. Ramune and Tussle here, maybe going to try and defend this tower. There is no wave, so at least for now, stays standing. But it's in tatters.
Yeah, so it is nice to get a threat onto these side lane towers. You have to imagine with the next couple of waves that bot lane out of turret will be going down. And what that means is that when you want to dive this mid lane tower is probable in the future for Sengoku just to try and take that down, because they do have a lot of wave clear when Aphelios has the Infernum to keep that tower standing. They'll be able to flank from multiple directions from either side, get vision controlled of both sides of the map, and then try and see if they can force down that tower.
Yeah, and as we sort of crest into this mid game now, around 18 minutes, we're looking at gold pretty much dead even. We're seeing it swing 50 gold apart, if that, it feels like. But there's been a teleport in behind. Dasher's in trouble, has got his ultimate, has got his pull, but I don't think he has anywhere to run. No flash, no hope. Pyrion takes the kill.
Yeah, uses the pool a bit early there, doesn't manage to avoid anything or buy time for the Hemo Plague to really get any healing down. Looks like Afterman is just going to 1v1 the turret, decides, actually, turrets really hurt. That's one of the first things you learn in League of Legends. Afterman, maybe try again. You might want to play the tutorial.
Well, yeah, he thought the Lightning Rush would give him enough attack speed that he could take that tower down, and it was probably just a bit risky. He had no idea where anybody else was and whether he could get picked off for trading his health bar for the turret.
Yeah,
It's just going to wait for the wave. Probably sensible in the end.
It's all in jest. It's another good kill. It's this time over to Afterman. It looks like it's Pyrion that gets the kill there. So we do have these two AP solo lane threats on side of Sengoku, getting some decent kill involvement. Although the gold is only at 500, and I'd actually imagine it's going to tick over just over to the Hawks just as they take down this outer turret as well.
So they do take down the outer turret, but what it means is that Kennen does get this little bit of priority, has managed to push in the wave first, gets the back first, can be back on the map first, and that's something that Sengoku Gaming could potentially use to set up their next play whenever that happens. Mountain Drake specifically will be happening in about a minute, 5 seconds.
Yeah. So, well, we're kind of settling into a little bit of this lull state now. I think, and now after we've seen all the easy turrets go down, we really have to see a lot of setup before these big objectives in the mid lane outer turrets start going down, because you just can't move a lot of these rocks from defending their turret, because you have the Tom Kench on one side and you have the range and wave clear of Aphelios on the other side. Indeed.
And let's see where this goes. Right, you still called out the lack of engage on Sengoku Gaming. They're very loud with this Ken, who is at least ahead, but takes a lot of damage from the bullet time. Incoming Akali ult, but she's been saved by the Tom Kench, but not for long, and Honey gets a trade, and it might be a 2-for-1 in the end. NT stepping to his death, can't hold on. Dashi gets a kill, Honey gets a kill. Yeah, Ramune traded, but let's be real, Sengoku Gaming stepped just a little far to claim that.
I think NT is going to take out his notebook and put note to self, cannot save teammate if they are dead. Pyrion takes a lot of tower shots, takes the ignite as well. But at the start of that play, fantastically well played by Yutori Miyashi to make sure he's playing guard, playing point defense on Ramune's return point, on his distortion, catches him out and uses the bullet time to absolutely shred Black Rose.
Well, let's have a look. Aphelios claims the mid lane tier 1. Tussle is claiming Dragon 3 for SoftBank Hawks. It is a Mountain Rift. It will be Mountain Soul. That means resistances galore, shields galore if they do claim that soul. But let's be honest, there's not that many users of the resistances outside of the Nautilus, probably. So not going to be the strongest soul capture.
What often happens with team compositions around this current Mandrake, as we see the replay of Ramune here, I'll just return to that point in a bit. As we say that, just jumping into a blind brush, finding a couple of people. But at this point, it's literally just Pyrion going just that tad bit too far. Didn't have the flash after being devoured, and NC is kind of paying for the overcommittal of the Akali there.
Yep, definitely got punished. Ramune overcommits, Pyrian overcommits. Such is the circle of int. And we're looking at about 1,000 gold lead now for SoftBank Hawks after those last few moments. They have got the tower lead, and I assume that's probably where that's coming in.
Circle of it. So, like, if you just randomly pop your Kennen ultimate just in the middle of nowhere, would you call that as the circle of int? See, this is
right, it's
perplexing
okay.
now.
So I actually reckon what it probably is you remember back to the death matches in Nexus Blitz when that was a game mode.
Yeah.
That was definitely more a circle event because it was broader, right? It wasn't just a Kennen. We don't want to put Kennen down as the only champion that can hit. That's
I've
clearly
seen some
not
pretty
true.
bad cannons in my time.
I mean, so have I, but I've seen most champions I play be really quite bad. So
yeah, well, I have to say, when you are playing this champions, it does quickly become an int champion.
Thank you, buddy.
Okay.
It's really appreciated.
But going
So
back
I
to,
did you go for that one.
yeah, but going back to this game, you know, the game is still relatively even in terms of gold, still relatively even in terms of kills, but it is those 3 Drakes now on the Hawks which are probably going to decide the flavor of these matches as well. Sengoku cannot afford to let the soul go through to the Hawks. Oh, hook landing,
but the Moonlight Vigil doesn't. It's a graviton. Poe can think about not engaging.
Yeah, it's pretty close there. Often what you want to do is lead with the Moonlight Vigil into the hook because it's a slightly longer range, a slightly faster missile speed, and it does allow you to follow up a lot more easily if you do land that ability and then the route afterwards as well. Also, the other thing is that if you land a Nautilus hook, you are following it either way. You will be up in the face of them, and if you choose to disengage after that point, you have to leave your Nautilus behind.
Indeed, we're looking at a bit more of an A-Ram, but Appleman's on the side, but so is Dasher. Gonna lightning rush away. No Dragon's Life. Baron is life, but I imagine it's a touch early for either of these teams to be thinking about taking it. They both got a fair amount of damage, but not a lot of people who can tank it.
Yeah, I think that's the key thing there as well. And also the fact
Spellbind
that...
to pick up Vladimir.
Yeah, that's also very big, a lot of AP for the Vladimir. But kind of going back to why we're not seeing anyone going towards the Baron, part of it is not being able to tank it very well. And the other part is just that the mid lane outer turret from the Hawks is currently up, and that just means that Sengoku cannot get any mid priority, and that means that they really can't move over towards that Baron without feeling a little bit at risk from that.
Awesome. Well, apart from that, we're seeing like another quite good pickup here from Applement in the Morellonomicon. He is side lane partner for the Vladimir and Hema Plague, all that healing for Vladimir. But we're looking at a Hema versus kicked out to the slice metal, isn't all that strong, but Dasha heals up, flashes for Applement. He's so close, he's going to get it. No, that Gunblade was so clutch, and now Tussle is in trouble running away from the likes of NT Empyrean, but that's a good knock up there from Pooh to keep everybody alive, just about from saying SoftBank Hawks, but Dasher trades his life for the flash of Appleman, not worth.
And one of my favorite motivational videos was an American football coach talking about how life is a game of inches, but we fight for those inches. And there was less than inches on that final Tides of Blood, just missing onto the cannon from the side of Sengoku Appleman, getting away just by the skin of his teeth, just like you told me how she got away by the skin of his teeth on that Felius ultimate.
To say exactly that on a similar wavelength. Let's go into this replay and look at this Vladimir Cannon Wombo trade-off.
So my first thought is, okay, right. So the cannon ult is kicked out. That means that actually there's not much damage there, but there's an uneven numbers advantage. There's a teleport committed from the Akali. Obviously, the LeBlanc not running that summoner spell, not able to get to that fight. So it did just mean the numbers won out.
Yeah, Tussle's found his way into this bush, as has Ramune. Pyrian's got to be a little bit careful as he walks along this narrow corridor, thinks better of it.
Yeah, and he's actually taken the cleanse from the spellbook. We haven't been following it that much because we haven't seen too many relevant. Well, if there have been relevant summoner spells, I've completely missed them. So, but we'll see what that cleanse can be used on. Just cycling through a couple of those summoner spells. Looks like the Hawks have managed to get priority in this mid lane for the first time in a while, actually.
Indeed, and they're all grouping up for a Mountain Drake spawning in 20 seconds. I'm sure they want to continue their Drake stacking. This will be for the soul coming in around 26 minutes if they take it on the dot. Cannon still shoving in the top lane, and indeed, Blank does take a lot of damage, is going to be back in base as the Mountain Drake spawns.
And we see Ramane's found his way behind enemy lines without anything regarding Quinn's ultimate, which is also called behind enemy lines.
We were talking about the Hawks and how they could be Quinn players, or should be Quinn players. See, even when they're not on the champion, they're finding ways to mirror their bird girl. So,
absolutely. But not Zaya, though.
Not Zaya. No, actually, of course, that's getting confusing.
Yeah. And of course, there is also Rakan. But we do see this flank coming up here.
Indeed. And Ramanu is in behind. We talked about it. He's here. He's in the bush. No one's like, what are you Just gets detonated. Had no idea it was a flash out from Ramone, but that's his work done. It's another Moonlight Vigil that's stopwatch now from Blank, but he's running away. Pyrian is running away. It's not enough. Crescendum is here. There is so much damage. Look at those chakrams spinning around, and it is a massive nightmare team fight loss for Sengoku Gaming. 3 for none, and never mind the Mountain Soul. SoftBank Hawks look towards Baron. Dasher might just take the Drake by himself.
And I've been wanting to say this all game, but honey, I'm home. Flashes in, finishes off the Akali, gets so much damage down in that team fight. But Ramone, behind enemy lines, like we were saying, finishes off the Yutori Miyashi, doesn't even get to use either of his summoners before he realizes he's dead.
Well, we're looking like a bit of a fight here. Tussel's not taking the Baron. He's here to contest for this Mountain Soul. What a lad. I love it. We're looking at a bit of a fight. They only could 3-man Baron up there. They've got the damage. Tussle is stuck in mid lane, actually. He's not even going to contest for this, Drake. He's just letting it reset. He's holding time up for the rest
looks like
of his squad.
Here now. They should be able to at least deny the Mountain Soul, but it is the Baron going over towards the Hawks. Using the bullet time even to rush that down.
Blank does secure that, and the Abyssal Void Tormenti does come in.
Okay, right, so
that was a series of plays.
Yeah, so it's okay. So going back into the replay here, effectively just Ramone finds the flank. They see him on the Tremor Sense, but it just doesn't clock on the team's radar until Yutori Miyashi is already dead. And at that point, your AD carry's dead, your consistent source of damage is dead without using the team fight ultimate. That's a lost team fight, regardless of how you play it from that point. And Honey flashes in, cleans up the first kill. At least Blank manages to flash away. It means that they don't lose the Baron Soul at the Baron and Dragon Soul as well.
Baron Soul sounds
like
the most nightmare.
So I'm trying to cast, I'm trying to do game design, all that kind of thing. Obviously, I had a prophetic vision about where Riot's heading with the game. We've forgotten about Dragon Souls now. We're on Baron Souls. When you take 4 Barons, the Nexus explodes. Yeah, normally that happens anyway, because if you can't end with 4 Barons, then I'm sorry, I don't know what to tell you. Perhaps you should think about better compositions.
Yep, I'm having horrific flashbacks to some games that may or may have not lasted 90 minutes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But let's not go there.
Was Blank in that game?
I think he was. He was in that game. He's having flashbacks.
Yeah, I know. It was definitely T1 versus the Jin Air game.
It was. Still holds the record for the longest game. I'm hoping we don't hit that point. It's 28 minutes, nearly 29 minutes, and SoftBank. It is SoftBank Hawks Gaming are in a fairly commanding lead here, pushing in the top lane, using this Baron buff. LeBlanc's pushing in the mid lane. It's a 4-1 split. See whether Sengoku Gaming can find a way to stem the tide, but we said they don't have the best engage, and this is where it's going to hurt them.
They really don't have good wave clear. That's going to really start showing now. We saw that once people walk up to the turrets, Kennen doesn't really have wave clear, has to get in melee range, use that lightning rush, try and get the mark of the storm down onto those minions. Can't do that without putting himself at risk, though. Although we do see there is a way to deal with these cannon minions. Ooh, good trade from Ramone, though.
Shamelessly, brazenly distorting over that wall there to throw the ethereal chains down and force them off that tower. And now begins the siege. Takes a lot of damage to Yutori Miyashi, but at least cleans most of the wave out. Problem is the cannon still survives, so it's lost its target lock on the tower.
And you know what's actually becoming quite a factor here is that Sengoku really don't have that much instant CC outside of a flash Rek'Sai. Now, if Rek'Sai doesn't have flash right now, which means that if Ramone starts looking towards these actually quite potent poke combos now, who stops him? Who stops him right there from getting both parts of the chain down instead of one, proccing the next mark, perhaps getting a kill on someone?
Like, he can trade half his health bars. Appleman's teleported in behind, has got this straight in. That's 2 big stuns. And shutdown has been a Thelios. Honey, I shrunk my own health bar. He's gone. Pooh is finding... Well, he found Pyrian somehow. Nautilus redeems his AD carry.
Honey, I shrunk my own health bar. That might have been one of the better casting moments I've heard from you, dear brother. Fantastic team fight. Start from Sengoku, but it is actually in the end a 1-for-1, all said and done. It's not what you want to see.
So, and Ramone's going in. He's saying that's not 1-for-1. If I get 16, a little bit of damage, you said there was no way of stopping him. My color caster is going to need a moment to recover himself.
I'm sorry, at this point, the analysis is over. We're going to stop trying to make more name puns based on Honey. That one was good. You know, the way I stand on name puns is that, if it takes a little bit of thought to get it, then it's worth it. And at that point, I'll give it to you. I hadn't thought of that one. I had the honey I'm home, but yeah, very well done.
Like I've got some Winnie the Pooh references ready to go. Like they're all here.
Well, maybe we'll see them throughout the split. And what we see now is that the Baron buff has fallen off. We now see a 4.5k gold lead to the Hawks, which has manifested in 3 items in the mid lane, 3 items and components on the top lane, and 3 items and components on the Aphelios too.
Oh, yes, there are. And let's just be aware that Ramone, as you said, has no one really to contest his poke. And with the Void Staff pickup, even things like a Banshee's Veil for both solo laners isn't going to stop much out of initial queue from the LeBlanc. That Sigil is the only thing it'll stop, because then they comes down the chains, then comes down the Distort.
And one of the other terrifying things for Sengoku at this point in time is that actually when you've gone Merc-Treads and Banshees onto your Akali, how do you kill the Aphelios with a Maw of Malmolicious?
Will you commit super hard and get traded back onto by a very angry...
to really start trying to pull off these crazy combos, but when you're running the Spellbook as well, as opposed to something like the Conqueror or the Ignite, you do lose a lot of damage coming into this point of the game, because Conqueror at this point of the game, if it fully stacked, will be giving you something like 40 AP. You don't get that if you run Spellbook.
I agree. We did talk about how the Spellbook was an interesting choice, but with the defensive itemization on top of it, there is a fairly limited damage on this Akali right now. She desperately needs a death cap, really, if she wants to be putting out meaningful
or
stuff.
a Void Staff, really.
Yeah, death cap is so expensive, and at the minute, gold is a little hard to come by. They are 5,000 gold down, I think, going, and this is the Mountain Soul trade. And let's be real, what else does Akali need on top of her limited damage? Resistances to fight against. Dragon Soul Claim, Shields online. Look at that. This is going to cost so much trouble. Pyrian takes some incidental poke from Ramone there and loses about a quarter of his health bar.
Yeah, so now we're going to see Aphelios running around with his Mountain Soul shield. And we're going to see him running around with his Severum shield. And if he does deem it necessary to finish a Bloodthirster, he'll probably have his health bar again just in passive shields.
Well, he's got a Maw of Malmolicious, which means he's even got some AP shielding, indeed. Yeah. Lifeline available now. Just because you know what Aphelios really needs on top of being extreme area effect damage.
It's Crouching Tiger, Hidden Shields, yeah.
Yeah, indeed. That's a gold difference grab. So even for so long into a massive swing for the SoftBank Hawks. Found a couple of key team fights. Sengoku Gaming ran out of ways to force engages, ran out of ways to keep Appamen split pushing in a side lane. Dasher is now stronger, really, than Appamen in the 1v1, I've got to think about. So he can't keep shoving the way he was earlier in the game. I'm struggling to see ways for Blank, Pyrian, and crew to find ways into this game.
Oh, and that's a nice trade onto Blank there as well. Proccing both sigils, and with the chain at the end of that, it does take off about third health. Does heal back up from the fruit, though, so nothing really gained there. A couple of seconds of Blank's time and a bit of irritation.
Stops him from going in and cleaning out wards, though, which is something that Hawks have done quite well this game.
Flash hook misses.
Man, that's close, but never mind, because Dasher found his way behind someone. Didn't even tell him. Came out of the red side jungle, and that forces a little bit more.
I think at that point, Sengoku thought they had vision control on the bot side, but just didn't realize that Yutari Miyashi was pushed so far beyond what the safe limits the Hawks have deemed Sengoku to have.
At the very least, they still have Rift Scuttler, which means they get at least some permanent vision that can't be removed around the Baron pit, because the Baron is live, and you've got to assume that SoftBank Hawks will be looking. But right now, Ramone's on the flank, has damage, has been spotted by the Tremor Sense. But as we saw before, that's not stopped him before. Just pops over for a Q and nothing more. Incoming, big Infernum ult takes some pretty decent chunk damage. Ramone died forward. It's a good devour, though, that keeps her alive. But actually, Yutari Miyashi throws the bullet time and dissuades further dive. But that's all it is. There's not much of a health bar issue for the Hawks. And they're just going to turn around and move straight back to Baron, knowing that there's a couple key ultimates down and not available, notably that bullet time.
Yeah, and every time it comes to these fights, you're just feeling the effect of not just the Mountain Soul, but the fact that just all the carries of Sengoku are just an item down. We even see a GA onto the Lee Sin. You can't even pick off the jungler.
Yeah, and they're looking at Abyssal Voyage in here. Ramone distorting away, flashing away, but it's going to be too late. This Baron is being double. Well, it was very early. I thought there was a double smite with Spellbook, but no, just happening. Incoming Dredge line catches Enti, and that's going to be so much damage for now. Who's running in on Yutari Miyashi, who has no flash, no way out. Misfortune, bewitching your skin may be, but dead in fact you are, and that 4 for none. clean fight, clean Baron take, and I'm thinking I'm calling GG here. Blank has no way to stop the last death push coming in.
Yeah, eventually the flaws of Sengoku's comp come up to catch them. They cannot fight around the Baron. They just didn't have the necessary stats to try and wombo the team, and it will be 1-on-1 day for the Sengoku Hawks, the Fukuoka Hawks Gaming. Wow, I got that completely wrong.
Oh, we've been... Wow, what a game. All right, Lexi, come and join us.
Wow.
Wow. What a game. That was such a close game for such a long time. That was a wild ride. I've got so many notes about that game. I can't wait to talk about it in so much more depth when we have an opportunity, but wow, Honey turned up. Honey turned
Yes,
up.
he
Your
did.
Yeah, he
thoughts
did.
Yes, he
from
did.
game one? Nah, this man's the real deal. Against Yutori Moriyashi, nonetheless.
Well, so that's another tally because it is Yutori Moyashi once
But
again.
you got to remember, you took one up at the end of that game. But I heard pronunciation.
Yeah, perhaps a bit worse, conflating actually both teams' name in the end game call. But yeah, I think for me, actually, there were some very good individual performances from the Hawks. I agree. But for me, it's a team comp thing from Sengoku. I don't understand how in a meta where there is so much engage available to you from the jungle, from support, from any number of roles really, that you actually end up with basically no engage as a team comp.
Yeah, that was definitely an unfortunate situation that they've definitely found themselves in for some reason. I'm also rather confused about that last pick, Kennen. I know you are last picking the Kennen kind of into a top lane matchup, right? But that Kennen just never really seemed to kind of gel with the comp. I think they needed some like active AoE stickiness. Now, obviously, Ornn would be the pick you would take there, and
That was bad.
that was banned. So you kind of forced yourself into a really awkward spot. I was thinking maybe a Pantheon, but that does basically the exact same as Kennen, so I'm not sure.
No, I think I disagree because actually Kennen was literally the only engage option they had. Said it in the cast. I think that Kennen was almost the only thing keeping Sengoku relevant in the late game team fights because you can lock down multiple people with that instead of just having something like the single target pick of a Pantheon. We saw that even in the laning phase, Afman had that fantastic 1v1 up in the top lane against the Vladimir and pulled off some great team fights throughout the game. I just feel like when you only have that one option, you need to look elsewhere for your engage.
Yeah, and actually, I want to say that I actually want to give some praise to Apperman, who I think had a very good laning phase, got the 1v1 kill, had some great outplays in the side lane. It just hit a point where the Vladimir just hit that tipping point, went over the line.
Could ignore people.
And the rest of his team kind of fell apart a little bit. We saw Ramone actually have a really stunning game as well. His LeBlanc play was pretty exceptional. And for the fanboy in me, the old Rampage fan in me, it's a real pleasure to see Ramone back on a champion, back on his distorting, blowing people up ways. It was that fantastic flank he found onto Yutori Miyashi around that team fight, around the one of the dragon fights. And it's all well and good that Apperman was doing well in the side lane, but it didn't matter when his carries were getting blown up and they were finding these fantastic flanks.
Absolutely. I mean, both teams really turned up. Every player played their heart out there. I mean, we were rewarded with a hell of a game on our hands, and that's why it was our it was our game of the week, and it was the same for also the official cast. It was also their game of the week as well. So, I mean, I think we shared the excitement for that game. But with that in mind, we will be moving on into our next game very shortly, which will be Sengoku up again. Sengoku Gaming versus Rascal Jester. But we'll be right back after this break.